The papers and broadcaster and writer Edward Adu and the PR consultant Paul Charles. Well, here you both are. It's great to have both of you here with us this morning. There's a lot to pick through, actually. Good morning to you both. Let me just start off with you and go through to the Telegraph there, Paul. There's a lot in the papers about Rishi Sunak, and this one's very interesting. So the headline there, Sunak resisted efforts to override the protocol. What's that all about?
Yes, don't think this story is going to go away. We've got another 5 weeks of this before, of course, the election on the 5th of September comes to an end and we find out who the new leader of the Conservative Party and new Prime Minister is going to be. But all of the papers, and including the Telegraph, really do start laying into both candidates and looking in more detail at what is making them tick. And this is one that I picked out actually from the Telegraph this morning. It's commentary by Lord Forsyth, Michael Forsyth, you may remember, who was the former Scottish Secretary. And this is another blue on blue attack. They simply won't stop. He says, writing in the Telegraph, that I'm not sure the former Chancellor gets it, that Conservatives believe in sound money and lower, simpler taxes. It's his, Rishi Sunak's, lack of empathy, foresight and vision that worries me. And this won't go down well in the Sunak camp because this is another major political, Conservative former leader, former cabinet minister, who is saying that actually he's not up to the job. And so I think that this is why I was saying earlier, on our earlier paper review, that actually Rishi Sunak's going to have to rework his campaign. He needs a reset, and he's going to have to show why he's going to be cutting taxes and not raising them, which of course was his policy with Boris Johnson when he was Chancellor.
Edward, I'll just get your take on this very quickly before we move on to the next story. Rishi Sunak, does he need a reset? And actually, is it too late for any kind of research?
I mean, from speaking to loads of friends, and I think the issue is about connecting with people and about being relatable. The whole issue of connecting about his finances and how he approaches things. That's, I think, the main concerns about people going forward. If he becomes PM, is he able to relate and to connect? And we're going to discuss this in a minute with the next story, which is about an issue in his constituency. And I think it boils down to the issue of knowing what people are going through, how they're able to, if he becomes PM, if he's going to be able to help people, because I think fundamentally that's crucial. And if that can't be done, or there's not a significant plan in place in order to address that, then that could be a problem.
OK, absolutely. We will come back to the politics a little bit, but let's just interject very slightly with another story that's really dominating the headlines. And I will stick with you there, Edward. This is Wagatha Christie. So the story of the moment, really. I mean, it's just been absolutely phenomenal to see the amount of money that's also gone into this.
3 million, and Paul mentioned earlier when we discussed it in the previous review, in terms of the proceeds, it has to be distributed to charities, because I think a lot of people thinking, well, okay, yep, £3-4 million bill, but Vardy, Rooney, let's face it, they have the money. In Vardy's case, she has the money to cover it, and whether she may have to kind of restructure or look at her finances in order to cover this. But it's the whole issue is of this could happen to anybody, and it has. I've had issues with friends who've sent not so much malicious, but I suppose you would call it banter, and then on WhatsApp you say, look,
they're not your friends.
Let's not I'm not gonna discuss it at this time of the morning. I'm friends with everybody, because you know what, they may end up taking me to court, and I've got no money, so that's not. I'm not in the same case, in the same predicament as Vardy. But on a serious note, it's about respect, I suppose, to common values, societal values, where if you are friends with somebody and if they send you stuff, you're not necessarily going to forward it on to the press or whatever. So I think it's down to this whole issue of we're living in a time where everyone is more sort of nosy, intrusive. They want to find out what's happening in their lives. And I mean, clearly for this case to get to where it is, I think there may be not just the Vardy and Colleen case, there may be others which may come to light and people say, well, look, we didn't want to talk about this or to address it, but we've had to because it's infringed on our privacy and on our lives. And if that happens, that's sad. I mean, if that's the case, then where are we in society in terms of privacy and respect? And I don't want to come across as some kind of, Sunday biblical pastor kind of saying we all need to live in an orderly society, but that has to be questioned.
Absolutely. And Paul, we're not looking for a friend in this next story. We're just looking for the next Prime Minister, the next leader of the party. We spoke about Rishi Sunak briefly earlier, but let's just talk about Liz Truss, because her campaign seems to be getting a bit of a boost, isn't it?
Yes, and I think you can relate all of these stories together this morning in how well people are conducting themselves. Look at the Lionesses with the Euro final today. They're conducting themselves really well. You're not seeing the equivalent of the wags on the male side fighting paw to paw. And the same in politics. Those that are coming out as friendlier, those that are coming out as not interrupting or mansplaining, like Liz Truss, are doing much better. And the Sunday Times is saying that there's going to be more momentum added to Liz Truss's campaign in the next few days, with both Nadhim Zahawi, the Chancellor, and Brandon Lewis, the Northern Ireland Secretary, apparently joining her cause. That makes more than 10 cabinet ministers backing Liz Truss, who herself, of course, is the longest serving member of the cabinet over various governments. So certainly the wind is in her favour at the moment. But as we know, the opinion polls are pretty close among Tory members right now. And I don't think you can rule out Rishi Sunak at the moment.
And let's just talk about a story that I find very interesting here. Edward, I'll come to you. This is a story in the Mail which says that British workers are worst in Europe for getting back to the office. What a scandalous thing to say. Is that true? What's going on here?
We were talking about the friends thing. I can actually say that some friends would be prepared to work from home than getting back to the office. I think COVID or the working from home or lockdown has made some people somewhat lazy, and they would prefer working from home or meeting a friend at their local cafe, and they may even consider going to the office twice a week. And I know Paul is not one of those. Paul, even though he's in his office behind him looks rather exuberant and it looks great, I'm sure he does step out at least 3 or 4 times a week, and he does get to the office, or he has his own office. I do the same thing. The working from home practice, I couldn't do it. Not that, you see my bus collection behind me, it's great. But if you said to me, Ed, you've got to stay at home and work from home forever, I would trade my bus collection and get to the office.
And what about you then, Paul? Would you trade that beautiful pottery behind you?
Very lucky to be on holiday at the moment here. It's not my place, but it would be a great office. There's no doubt. I'm rethinking where my office should be. Not in London, but down here. But yeah, I think, most people have rethought their lives. They want to be in the office 2 or 3 days a week and have that mix if they're working in a job that enables them to do that. What is clear is that the message sent out by Jacob Rees-Mogg a few months ago about getting civil servants back to work has not really worked. So still a long way to go on that.
We have to get him on the case there, really. It's been great speaking to you both.